Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money channel. And just like that, the ATMs have disappeared. Guys, this from Rob Art on Twitter. The Wolf of Rex Street. ATMs at my local bank are gone. All right, and I think that psychologically, this is how they're going to get you to buy into the idea of a cashless society. All right, but first we've got to accept the fact that, the beer flu's going around and they do not want people to contaminate each other with germs, spreading it through the touchpads of these ATMs. Or possibly is it something else? Very interesting. Thanks, Rob, for posting that. Spencer Carper posted this, an email he got from his credit union on Friday. We are experiencing technical difficulties receiving ACH payments from Aloya Federal Credit Union, who is our corporate clearinghouse. Aloya processes all ACH transactions for us and hundreds of other credit unions who are also currently experiencing the same problem. We have received a small portion of the scheduled deposits, but are unfortunately waiting to receive the bulk portion. Guys, I will link this in the description if you want to read the whole thing. And the Crypt Keeper down here responds, thought this was kind of interesting as well. ATMs and bank branches will be extinct by 2041. Okay, this is a Google search for ATMs disappearing. Recent research from Expert Market foresees the complete disappearance of all ATMs by 2037, while bank branches at this rate have just over 22 years left. The idea that we're on the road to a completely cashless society isn't new, but it is accurate. So, removing ATMs in certain cities, now if that's not going to cause panic, I do not know what is. Especially since a lot of the branches these days are saying, we don't have cash. You have to go to the ATM for cash. Yet they remove the ATMs, I'm sure purportedly because of the beer flu and they do not want to spread the virus. But like I said before, we do not know how long this is going to go on. And is this just the first step to a cashless society? Getting you guys used to this. And we've seen this in the past with the 2008 collapse. What happened after that? And guys, I noticed this trend with businesses. Do you remember how many businesses just had full-time positions before the 2008 collapse? Now think about today and think about how many companies only offer contract positions now, or they say, we'll put you on a 3-month contract and we'll roll you over to another 3 months or 6 months or 1 year. And then after that contract, we'll keep rolling you over. This is contract work. This is not giving you benefits. This is not having you as a permanent employee. And this is a loophole that I find that at least in some of the major cities and some of the bigger companies, they are now trying to use to prevent having to pay benefits to their employees. It's a dirty trick, but it's quite evident. And this has only happened since the 2008 collapse when the economy was precarious and it was just starting to get back on its feet. We started to see this. And even 10 years later, 11, 12 years later, they never stopped. A sad state of affairs. And I'm just saying, getting you used to a cashless society psychologically is smart on their part. And by them, I mean government banks, the powers that be as a global abstract concept. Nevertheless, let's keep moving along here. XRP Crypto Wolf posted this. The government budget deficit is about to explode. Congress and the White House are working on an economic stimulus bill likely to approach $2 trillion. So here are the key takeaway points. Congress and the White House are working on an economic stimulus bill likely to approach $2 trillion. The spending comes with the government already expected to run a budget deficit exceeding $1 trillion this year. Economist Paul McCauley said aggressive spending to combat the beer flu economic impact will be a bridge to the other side of an act of God. In addition to the spending, a Treasury backdrop of Federal Reserve programs could provide another $4 trillion in liquidity. Administration officials say that spending will pave the way for greater growth later this year. Guys, did you see 60 Minutes last night? Basically, there was a story on 60 Minutes and an official in the government, I forget his name now, was saying that they will do anything. He was actually pretty confident that the economy was going to recover and that, they recovered after 2008. They are going to recover after this crisis as well, but it's going to take time. And he says they will do anything they need and provide as much liquidity as possible. And, the interviewer is asking him, so, that means printing as much money as you need, right? And he's like, oh yeah, we're just going to print as much money as we need, unapologetically. Okay. And to me, that is alarm bells, because how can you function? This is a precarious house of cards. How can this actually be a robust economy if you are just printing money at will? Now, we understand it's for stimulus packages and we're in a critical time right now. But realistically, that's just optics. And at some point, the American greenback is not going to recover. It's a little worrisome. I don't know if you guys can catch that episode maybe online somewhere. I don't have it up here. I was just watching it on television myself last night. And we've got some Ripple news, okay? We've got some Ripple news. One of Ripple's largest remittance partners plans to test XRP for cross-border payments this year. So this with regards to Intermex. This from a couple of days ago now. They are big in Latin America. In an earnings call, the remittance provider, which processes over 30 million transactions per year, sheds light on how it plans to leverage Ripple's services moving forward. Now, they say they're not planning on using Ripple's technology in their primary corridor, which is US and Mexico. And I know this got a few people a little worried. So let me just continue with this and then we'll talk about that for a second. Tony Loro says the company expects to begin testing the viability of XRP as a bridge currency, though, later this year. We're looking at Ripple for a couple of other products, which I think we mentioned in the press release. The first of which is RippleNet, which is their hub connecting financial institution together, which will enable us to onboard new payers faster than we would if we were doing direct connections to each other. So that has more applicability for us outside of Mexico, where we're building out our network in other corridors. But the other would be on-demand liquidity. I think that might be more of what you're talking about, where we can use XRP as kind of a pivot currency to swap US dollars for pesos 24/7. And it's early days, but we would expect to be testing that later this year. So interested in utilizing XRP for new corridors, not focused on Mexico, US. Okay, why not focused on Mexico, US? Guys, think about Ripple's partner with MoneyGram right now and how they are doing the Mexico-US thing. We don't know what kind of contract they have. We don't know what kind of deals are going on in the back. We still are looking at this as kind of a working proof of concept. Not that it is proof of concept, that we are seeing it actually being used in the real world. But my thought is, and this is pure speculation, that Ripple and MoneyGram probably have a deal that says, MoneyGram has exclusive rights to that corridor for X amount of time. That's my thought. And this is why I'm thinking Intermex would not be using it for their major corridor, which is US to Mexico, and that they will be using it for other corridors because Ripple, I'm assuming, does not have those same deals with MoneyGram in the corridors that Intermex is looking at. That's my thought. Definitely not something to worry about, in my opinion. So hopefully that puts your mind at ease with regards to, companies saying, well, we're not going to use it here. We're going to use it there. We're not going to use it here. Guys, there are always reasons for this. Why wouldn't they use it in every corridor if they do believe XRP is so efficient, which they do say it is? This also, MoneyGram says it has sold 11,300,000 XRP since the beginning of the partnership with Ripple. So a few people in the XRP community were a little concerned about this as well. And so we're hearing this news and, alarm bells, what's going on? We can't help but feel emotional when we're seeing news like this come out. So MoneyGram says it has sold 11.3 million worth of the crypto asset XRP that it received from Ripple as part of MoneyGram's commercial agreement with the payment startup. In its latest SEC filings, MoneyGram says it receives XRP from Ripple as compensation for using Ripple's on-demand liquidity platform to facilitate cross-border payments. The company is compensated by Ripple and XRP for developing and bridging liquidity to foreign exchange markets, facilitated by the ODL platform and providing a reliable level of foreign exchange trading activity. Let me just go down here. Citing a spokesperson from MoneyGram, they said remittance firm MoneyGram received 11.3 million worth of XRP from Ripple in incentive payments last year, but it sold those digital assets as soon as it received them, according to the spokesperson. We know about the strategic partnership that Ripple and MoneyGram entered into. So my thought is this, with regards to this, okay, Ripple is obviously incentivizing their clients, and we've talked about this in the past, in this case MoneyGram, to use XRP. Now, they are at, 10% capacity? They're certainly not at 100% capacity. So Ripple has been giving them XRP, and it sounds like a large quantity of XRP, probably more than they're using at the moment. Now, MoneyGram obviously has been up and running with this system for a few months now. Realize how much money they are transferring in the corridors that they are operating in at the moment. And so they're probably realizing, hey, we've got all this XRP. Some of it we're using, some of it we're not using because we're just not at scale yet. We can do with it as we wish. To a degree, because I'm sure there are contracts. Actually, we know there are contracts. Brad Garlinghouse has mentioned that, a company cannot just take the XRP as the incentive and then go and sell it on the open market. So there are contracts, and I'm sure there are stipulations. And guys, the other thing we have to remember is we are in unprecedented times right now. Maybe there's a clause in the contract that said in case of an emergency, you can free up that liquidity and sell it to keep the business afloat, because we, Ripple, and you, MoneyGram, are both interested parties in MoneyGram being successful. So again, we do not know what is in the contract. I mean, it's likely not that that was the situation, because this sounds like it happened from before. Nevertheless, there are reasons why companies to move assets around, be more liquid, be less liquid in certain cases, depending on what is going on. I do not see this as a slight against the XRP token. They've already gone on the record saying XRP is a great solution for them for cross-border transactions. It provides the liquidity that they need. And so this is just going to be the way it is going to be at the moment. And guys, you remember XRP value will be driven from utility. This from Bank XRP on YouTube. You guys remember this interview with Brad Garlinghouse back on February 13th, right before the SHIT hit the fan, when Julia Chatterley asked this.
You said you're an investor in Bitcoin. You own Bitcoin.
I am. I do own Bitcoin, yes.
Yeah. So XRP, is that a good investment?
I am going to dodge that question also.
I've seen you dodge that many times.
Look,
What's the investment case? I guess that's a better question.
Well, I'm going to macro all digital assets. I have said very publicly, I think the value of any digital asset in the long term will be derived from the utility it delivers.
And guys, of course, I will link this in the description. But always remember, the utility that a coin delivers will set its inherent value, okay? We've heard Brad Garlinghouse say this before. If a coin is being used, it has value. If a coin is not being used, it does not have value. When we're seeing companies like MoneyGram using XRP, seeing the benefits in it, that's good. That shows that the coin has value. But what's really going to drive price is that scale, okay? We're not seeing MoneyGram using XRP at scale. We're obviously not seeing companies like Intermex. Also, I was talking about Intermex in this article, not going to be using it at scale, because they're saying they're not going to be using it in the US-Mexican corridor. But when we do see the usage at scale, that is going to be transformative. Let's not forget that. Also got to thank Real XRP Boy here on Twitter at boy_XRP. Friendly reminder, listen very carefully. And guys, this from Chris Larson.
XRP is having a summer slump. Do you expect a rebound in the fall?
I think what's really important is that any digital asset to be valuable has to be serving an actual use case. It can't just be speculation. Obviously, a lot of the market today is really speculative. But we think over the long run, it's going to be that combination of deep liquidity, market makers, institutional bets being made. But very importantly, it has to have a use case.
Most importantly, it has to have a use case. He does say market makers are going to dictate the price of XRP, as well as deep liquidity, and so people sourcing XRP for various different purposes. Now, will the cross-border transaction industry be enough to give XRP that price that we will all be happy with selling XRP at? That is a good question. We know cross-border transactions is going to be that big play for Ripple, but we also know the XRP ecosystem needs to grow. We've heard Brad Garlinghouse say this is a long play, and that Ripple is looking for other verticals, that they want to be the Amazon for payments first before they move into those other sectors. But these guys really have a plan in place, okay? Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, they understand how the company Ripple is going to succeed, and they understand how they need to leverage XRP for that to happen. The price will come following the use cases. The most important thing we have to remember here is that XRP does solve a problem. It is the fastest, most efficient, and cheapest cryptocurrency that solves the problem it's focused on. And with Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse at the helm, I think the sky's the limit. Anyways, guys, that's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.